Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 42 of the New Slang Podcast. I'm Thomas Mooney, the editor-in-chief of New Slang here in Lubbock. And if you listen to episode 41, I said that we're going to try and get 2 or 3 episodes out this week because I've got so many backed up. This episode right here is with Blake Sager. He's the drummer for Grady Spencer The Work. It's kind of a shorter episode, probably about 30 minutes or so. So often whenever a band is interviewed, it's typically like, the lead singer, the guy writing the lyrics. That's usually the only guy or the only person talking from the band. You never really hear the opinions of the other people in the band. And it can be refreshing whenever you, I guess, when those other guys get a chance to speak. And so, this interview right here was really, really fun. We just talk about really like the other side of Grady Spencer The Work, I guess, like what the opinions of the other guys in the band, like how the creative process works, what their opinions are, or what Blake's opinions are, as far as like how songs come together, that kind of thing. So, as I mentioned, episode 41 is up. That is with Mike Harmeyer of Mike and the Moon Pies. It's a really good episode. It's a lot of fun. And as far as what I have written lately, there is a piece on Wide Open Country with Ross Cooper. It's a song premiere of his of I Rode the Wild Horses, which is the title track of his new record coming out. That's going to be coming out in March, and it's a really great song off of a really incredible record. I'll end up getting a few other pieces on Wide Open Country this week, so be on the lookout for those. Now, officially, the New Slang Podcast is on Spotify, so if you search the New Slang Podcast on Spotify, you can follow us there and listen to these podcasts there. The only downside of that is that there's not like the back catalog of interviews and everything, so you'll still have to go to iTunes. If you're on iTunes, though, go ahead and keep on listening there if that's the way you want to listen to the podcast. If you're over there, go ahead and leave us a review. Tell your friends to listen to us either on Spotify or on iTunes. And anyways, here's this interview with Blake Sager of Grady Spencer The Work. So we're rounding out the end of the year here. What is what's been like your favorite stuff you've been listening to lately?
Oh man.
Or this year, like if you had like your top 10 list kind of deal.
Shit. I made this at one point and then just disappeared. I think number one, I think Damn by Kendrick Lamar was just absolutely incredible. I'm still like unpacking it, and like I listened to it so much when it came out and then gave it a break. And then came back to it recently, and again, like there's so much there. Like his lyricism is great, his beats are incredible. Kendrick as a conceptual artist is really bar none. Like I don't there's not really anybody else that's doing what he's doing. So that was really good. There's like kind of an indie band out of North or South Carolina called The Collection. I've been listening to a lot of them. It's very much early 2000s indie folk, but there's a lot to the lyrics. Really cool stuff going on there. And then, dang, I just had one that disappeared.
Look at your phone.
Yeah, I'm pulling out my phone because I can just look at my listen history.
So the thing about Damn, I think I saw something about, there was like a Kendrick quote about how really it was meant to be listened to backwards.
Yeah.
And so like, when I had first listened to it and was going through, I put out like a mid-year review kind of thing. Like, these are the records, my favorite records. And what I had said on that was that it's like kind of like what is it, like the Greek mythological snake that eats itself?
Yeah,
Ouroboros.
Ouroboros. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because like at any point you can probably start the story and just continue listening. And then when he said, you can listen to it backwards, I was like, well, shit, man.
Yeah. Well, he released a collector's edition that was backwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that came out like a week or two ago. There's another really badass podcast called Dissect.
Yeah.
And the first season of Dissect, he went track by track through To Pimp a Butterfly. And that was really when I kind of started to understand, like, like Kendrick is operating really on another level.
Yeah.
So that one's great. And then the last album was Crack Up by Fleet Foxes. So they took a break, like a long, 4 or 5 year break. Robin, their frontman, actually went to Columbia to study, like Columbia University, to study literature, and then he dropped an absolute bombshell of a record. Harmonies are incredible. It's without Jay Tillman, exactly. Yeah. And so it really kind of shows that, like, he was obviously a fantastic musician, but I don't think you know how much of an influence he had on the writing process, because it's still really incredible and really harmonically and lyrically dense. So that one is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
too.
See, I still haven't. I listened to it 1 or 2 times, but I just really never got into it. And I think, like, that's sometimes when a band does that, when they take a 5-6 year break, sometimes you're a different. I hate to say it, I'm a different person than I was last time when their last record came out, Helplessness Blues, right?
Yeah, Helplessness Blues.
But like, I don't know. Like, I listened to it and I was like, I don't know. I just don't have the same drive to listen to it as I did, like, their first 2 records.
And see, that's how I feel about Radiohead, which I really think is like the master of the slow burn. Because King of Limbs, which is their one before the last one, and the last one, which was a moon-shaped pool. I always say a pool-shaped moon. I get it. So but both of those are really, really incredible records, and I think some of the best work that Radiohead's done. But, like, nothing grabbed me.
Yeah.
Right? And I think it's, like, super pompous to say, like, oh, you got to sit on it, you got to think on it. But I think, Radiohead and this newest Fleet Foxes album, like, it really is a slow burn. And once you get through some of that, I don't know, I guess that just callousness, it really starts to hit you.
Yeah. Well, last week I was talking with Mike and the Moon Pies, Mike, and I had said, we were talking about Radiohead, and I said something to the effect of, like, maybe, like, in 10 years we'll start getting these records, because, like, it felt like it took me 10 years to really go, man, the fucking Benz is amazing. And that's, like, my favorite record of theirs now. But, and I did like Kid A when it came out, and OK Computer. I can't really say I liked OK Computer when it came out, because I was, like, 10 years old. Yeah. But, like, the first time I heard it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not until years later that I felt like, oh shit, this is actually really good. And, like, I don't know, I think, like, Kid A may be, like, the best record of the generation, I guess, like, this decade.
Yeah. And what's funny,
generational.
Yeah, and I just, because that was 2000?
Yeah, something like that. 2000, 2001.
I think it was early. And I just got into a fake Twitter argument with some friends a while back, and then I tweeted that Illinois by Sufjan was the best record of the aughts, if you will, like 2000, 2010. And the one point that I would concede was Kid A.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, I forgot about that one. That might be the one that's better. So
yeah. See, like, I think another slow burn band for me is The National. They're one of my favorite bands, but it takes me so long to really digest a full record of theirs. Yeah,
and it's almost like, I don't know, it's kind of like, it's mixed very similar, I think, to, like, early emo music, when the vocals are kind of buried in the mix, but they don't have all of these, like, really piercing, sad emo licks to kind of catch your attention, and so you really have to dig. And just the way that he's not a high intensity singer.
Yeah,
Matt, I think his name is Matt. He's like just like talking really low, and he's barely singing at all. And so that it took a long time for them to grab my attention at all, because I don't know, like, I think I just wanted to be wowed by something, and that's that's not, they're not the band to just like blow up in your face. And then,
well, whenever Boxer came out, I used to get a whole lot of magazines, like Under the Radar, stuff like that, and they're just saying that Boxer is the best record, yada yada yada. So I go out and get it, and I'm just so underwhelmed by it. Yeah, and I give it like 8 months. Yeah, late, and then I listen to it again, and I'm like, holy shit, man! Like, this is actually good. And I think, honestly, like, of the bands that are slow burn bands like that, I feel like The National takes the most, not necessarily patience, but, like, the time that you need to be writing. Like, it's a band that, like, if it hits you, it's going to be mainly because of, like, where you are in your life. And with Boxer, I thought so much of it was about that gap period between, like, being a kid in college and being like,
Hmm.
what am I supposed to be doing in
Yeah.
my life? And like feeling like you're too old, like time's just taking too
Yeah.
much from you too fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I felt like that record for me was just like, it hit me in a point in my life where I was like,
Shit.
man, this
Yeah.
this is me right now. Like just
Yeah.
feeling like time's just passing away too quickly. I'm getting too old. And mind you, I'm like 23 at the time. Or
Yeah.
so whenever I really just feel this record.
23 is a rough year. Yeah, I remember. I remember that.
Because like you feel like you're old and you're not really old at all.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, and that's and this is a whole other conversation, but it's that idea of like, I don't know, you walk out with a degree, or you're supposed to walk out with a degree, right? And like, I don't know, I think I always thought that I would like leave that stage of being in my super early 20s with a boon of knowledge and kind of a direction and a plan, and that was not the case at all. So that's fine. That's good to hear that somebody else.
yeah,
I wasn't the only 23-year-old that was confused.
I think so much of that time period is, you have these, you're putting yourself against expectations of like everyone else and like what the plan is supposed to be, all that kind of stuff, like what you're supposed to be. And I mean, like, I feel like it's probably every person,
Yeah.
but you feel like you're just behind that plan, like you're behind.
Yep.
And you're behind on schedule.
Yeah. No shit. Woo.
But yeah, anyways, that was like one of those, for me, Boxer was just that record.
Yeah.
But of course I listened to a whole bunch of those like New York buzz bands around that time.
Uh-huh.
Like Interpol. That was still like my favorite
Yeah.
winter record.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's such a good winter record. Turn on the Bright Lights.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. And that's, that's kind of like, I don't know, I really like post-rock and instrumental stuff, and any time that you can pull that drone into something with maybe a little bit of melody, I get super excited.
Yeah.
Because it's rare that you see those two kind of put together. So
yeah. Going back to like national, but like comparing this for y'all, I remember like Matt one time, I think it was like this little bit of a mini doc or something like that I had watched on him, and they said, because it's two pairs of brothers, there's like 5 people in the band, 2 pairs of brothers and Matt, lead singer, and how I guess when they're creating a record and like they're making all these little decisions on how a song is going to be, the arrangements, all that kind of stuff, it gets into heated discussions, right? Heated arguments where obviously these guys are brothers, and you can take it to another level with your family that you wouldn't necessarily with a, just a contemporary, a friend or whatever, or a bandmate. But like you have all these little arguments where sometimes it's 3-2 this way on a song, but it's 3-2 the other way on another song, and you're like, the first song, let's say you and me are on opposite ends, but the second song, we're on the same page. How much of that is the same way when making a record that you've seen yourself in? Yeah,
that's and I think the stuff that I've done with Grady is the only recording process that I've actually had, or even have wanted to have a say in how things sound. Usually I'm just kind of a hired gun, right? I just show up and playing, and that's about it, right? Like 9 to 5 job. But when we record with Grady, there's a little bit of back and forth, but we don't ever really get heated. I don't think that's the way that any of us are really wired. Grady and I, Grady is very people-oriented, very person-oriented. I think that's why we've had a lot of the success that we've had. Is not only is he a great songwriter, like he's a really nice dude. He's a really good guy, and people just connect with him. And I am, not that I dislike people, but I'm very business, very like analytics, data-driven. And so the only like fights that we've gotten in have been over like business practices and not necessarily the records. But the way that it works with Grady is Grady writes by himself.
Mm-hmm.
The dude is a writing machine. It's kind of unfair how quickly he writes songs and how quickly he puts them out. But he'll bring us these songs that are more or less completed and written, and then just kind of hands it over, right? And so that's not to say that he takes a back seat during the recording process, but he isn't really super pushy or super controlling. And we've got Trevor as on guitar, who's a brilliant guitarist, and Johnny on bass, who's a brilliant bassist, and he really trusts the 3 of us to kind of make it work, right?
Yeah.
And that's been super fun. that make it work part. Trevor and I are both, quote unquote, classically trained. And so there's been a couple of times when Grady's brought us a song, like, man, this is in 4 different time signatures. I don't know how are we going to get, and we'll kind of push back and forth, but it's never gotten heated. I would never say that we fought in the studio. Maybe this next round, I don't know. Maybe I should pick a fight. But
yeah, that needs to happen because obviously tension creates amazing results, right?
Fleetwood Mac, right? Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Grady Spencer's Rumors is going to be coming out next.
Fantastic.
But yeah, I mean, like, I've always wondered how. I mean, it's obviously different with different people, but just how much control somebody wants over a song they've written. You know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes, you can be, people who are like, this is the way I've envisioned it in my head, and you're fucking with it, for lack of a better term,
Yeah, and there's also this propensity, and I think we all fall into it very quickly. And the real popular phrase is, you are not your art, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are a separate, distinct entity from the art that you create. And so when we forget that, we take all criticism extremely personally, right? Because it's like, no, you're not making a suggestion to this thing that I wrote. You're making the suggestion to this thing that I am. Right?
Yeah.
And I think we're pretty good at making those distinctions. Obviously, we'll all get butthurt over things, but that's when you're all in, and when you're really dug in on a song, that line really starts to blur, and then that's why we all have existential crisis in the in the studio, right?
Yeah, yeah. So last time you guys worked with Pawpaw, right?
Yes.
Elijah.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Did you work with Elijah Ford on that? Or
Oh,
was
no,
that
no,
like just
no. Yeah, it was Pawpaw, and then Grant.
Okay, yeah, Grant.
And then a guy named Ryan Tharp did a little bit of production on it. Yeah, so it was it was definitely, a little bit more involved from a production standpoint than the first record, but it still wasn't, we didn't bring in a producer. We just kind of had these songs and rehearsed the shit out of them and then showed up and tracked them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, what do you guys, I mean, I feel you just said, Grady's a writing machine.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that something is going to be coming forward in the next 18 months or so.
I think so. I think the plan is next year. And so it's funny. I say that he's a writing machine. I think he's actually not had a whole lot of time to write in the recent past, right? Like the last couple of months. But we're playing a couple of pretty big shows next year that have really wide radiuses on them. And so I think that Grady's plan is just to hunker down and write, and we'll rehearse and hopefully get in the studio by the end of the year. And Grady definitely writes in bursts. I think that there have been months with nothing, and then he'll show up with 3 new songs. It seems like. I'm sure that's probably not how it is at all. Maybe he just finishes them at the same time. But he just seems to introduce several songs at once. So yeah, I think that a lot of first quarter next year is going to be a lot of writing and pre-production. I think that we're all in a much better place and are much better musicians than the last record, which is also what we said about
the previous.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of cycle is always fun. So I don't know. I don't know what we'll do. Yeah, I think that we may take a couple of different business routes. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm excited to see what happens for sure.
Yeah, I think like last record, and I say this every time too with y'all, is really any band from out of this area. I've said, that you see so much, you see the maturation process.
Yeah.
So much from record to record, right? And this last record I thought of y'all's was just, it popped just right in the right places. And I don't know, I think it was just like crisp and clean and just really, obviously Grady has that working man kind of thing, right? The
absolutely.
Lunch pail kind of, and I think that like the sound is that, and so many of the lyrics are obviously go to that.
Yeah, and that'll always be a theme with us, which is super interesting because I'm not blue collar, right? Like I'm a software developer, so it's always funny to see like dollies and hammers and stuff on our merch. I'm like, I'm such a fraud. But no, and that's we've had lots of conversations about branding and marketing because that's kind of just the way that I think. And what we kind of arrived on is that our core, like the core, if you had one word, it's just work, right? Like that's what we're gonna do. Like we may never get a big budget. Right, we may never brush elbows with the Nashville greats or whatever, but we're just going to bust our ass and kind of see what happens. And I think that has led to really rapid, like the hockey stick graph of maturity, I think.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too is that, we always quote unquote struggle with the Texas country designation. Thankfully this isn't Grady saying this. So if this pisses somebody off, he can just blame it on me. But, we certainly say that because it gets us in the door and people identify us as that. And so that's great. But I don't know how much of, aside from the working man kind of motif, I don't know how much Texas country we really have in us. Like there's some twang for sure, but we all listen to really weird stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that comes through, I think, a lot.
Yeah. I think 2 points on that. I think that, for starters, if you guys were from Michigan, obviously it'd just be rock and roll, or whatever the case is. But like this is also like one of my little problems too, is like whenever people just lump anything called country, if somebody has like an accent, a southern accent, or like a western accent kind of thing going, because I'm like, well, just because they have like they sound like they're from the South does not mean they're playing country music or southern rock, whatever the case is, right? But then also, like, I think 10 years ago, obviously you wouldn't have been lumped in with Texas country. And maybe that's a good thing that like the quote Texas country has been able to, whatever the Texas country is, has been able to expand enough to include all these different bands that are not what I would never traditionally call quote Texas country or red dirt, because I think like Shane Smith and the Saints is very much the same thing. I mean like that does not feel like
it
quote
doesn't.
Texas country, but obviously they get like lumped in as the same way. And in my opinion, I used to kind of like combat this kind of thing, but like now I don't know, maybe like it's a good thing.
Well, and
I'm of a thing.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that that words for the most part mean what you mean them to mean, right? Like they're just going to absorb whatever meaning you put into them. So if enough people use Texas country to describe a really wide group of people, then that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think, and the other thing too is that I also love the Texas country crowd. I love the people that come out to these shows, right? Like there's an authenticity and a genuineness that you're not really going to find, I think, anywhere else outside of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, Texas crowds are always great because for the most part we give a damn, right? I went to a show with Grady a couple of years ago, and there were 3 bands, and when the opener played, they were from L.A., and there were probably 100 of us there waiting for the headliner, and they were just blown away that Texans were there.
Yeah.
3 hours early, essentially, and giving a shit about this band from L.A. they've never heard of. And so I really appreciate that about Texas country fans in the scene, is that, man, they give a damn. They're not there to be seen for the most part. They're really just there to enjoy themselves and have a good time. And there's really, really empowering as an artist, right?
Yeah. I think like the biggest thing with Texas country has been the infrastructure. I mean, like, think of all the bars that wouldn't necessarily be playing live music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it wasn't for a fan base here, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's I think that's like the biggest part of it now, because I probably have referenced this a few times in a podcast, so I apologize.
That's okay.
Like Wade Bowen, whenever I talked with him, he said, one of the biggest things was that he had his own PA system.
Yeah.
In the early days.
Yeah.
And that was like a big selling point to people, right? Was that, or like to bars and stuff, he was able to bring his own PA and set up, because a lot of bars didn't have the setup to play live music on a weekend basis. And like, I think like that's probably the biggest thing of like that quote generation of Texas country, is that they they helped, build a foundation where a lot of bands these days are able to pick up off, just because like, they've got a place to play,
Yeah, and that's one thing that was surprising to me, to learn that like Texas is one of the only places that you can just tour Texas and make a living, right? That's pretty incredible when you think about it. Like, you can never leave the state and be able to feed your family. And again, it's because we've kind of laid this infrastructure. I think you're absolutely right there. Yeah,
I think like on the other side, obviously, is that the detriment to that kind of thing is that there's so many bands who I don't feel challenged themselves to get out of the state. Obviously, it's like in a way, a safety net, right? But
yeah, that's probably a valid point. And man, but breaking out of the state is hard. Like
Yeah.
it's really tough. And really, you can't do it unless you have an entire state behind you, right? And I'm sure you've heard this before, but in a perfect world, the way that touring works, you hit your markets, you make your money, and then you go where nobody knows you, right? And then you come back and to hopefully hit more of your markets and make money. And so if you can hit all of Texas, and then that'll give you a lot of momentum to go outside. But it's tough, man. It really is hard leaving the state. We've not done it a whole lot, but it requires I don't know. It's almost like starting from ground zero.
Yeah.
But you've tasted local.
What it
fame
is,
and local success.
What it is that it's like the late '90s, the '90s, early 2000s version of Texas everywhere else for 49 other states. You know what I mean? Just to use that analogy, because like they don't necessarily have the infrastructure of a local scene or a regional scene, shall I say?
Well, and regional scenes in other states are going to be just as
different
unique.
music.
Yeah,
though.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's a huge regional scene in Chicago, but it's not what we do.
Yeah.
you know, and it's the same everywhere you go. And so, and that's that's this whole other discussion of like the value / the pain in the ass that it is working to try to get your stuff on the radio. Because it's such a slog, and it's such. I love DJs, I really do. I think they have a great job. They do a lot for us, but they're just overwhelmed with requests, right? And so to even have a shot in hell, you've got to be able to get your music on some kind of airwaves, and that's really hard, right? It's really tough to do by yourself. Yeah.
Well, how much is like on a band level? How much has like Spotify helped or not helped?
See, Spotify is really interesting. The quick disclaimer is the average amount that an artist makes. It does vary because of their formula, but the average amount that an artist makes per spin is 0.02 cents, right? So we're not even talking a full spin. And so the quick disclaimer is it'd be really nice if we got paid more than 0.02 cents a spin, right?
Yeah.
But the industry's changed. It's not going back, and Spotify has helped us a lot, and it's been really interesting because we're only, we've played in Lubbock, we're played in Dallas and in Fort Worth, but that's it. We don't have any other radio play elsewhere. But our Spotify numbers are really good. Things to do broke 1 million spins earlier this year, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I got a royalty check for $12. Feeling really good about that. But we've able. Again, like me being more business-minded and more analytical, like I've really been able to say, oh, there's a ton of people listening to us in this city we've never been. We should try to go there. And so they do give you insights. And to Spotify's credit, they give you insights like spins, demographics, and all sorts of stuff like that. So the numbers are there to help us kind of be a little bit more persuasive in our pitches to venues and stuff. And also the amount of times that people have sent me emails saying, hey, I found you guys on Spotify, at this point really is innumerable. I mean, it's several times a month.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's even more for some other people. So there is absolutely value in what Spotify does.
Yeah.
And they've tried to you can sell merch through Spotify and you can sell tickets and all that stuff. And so they're, they are trying to make a conduit to help artists do what they do. So yeah.
Yeah. Because I wonder just how many bands are utilizing the analytical aspect of Spotify of, like you said, oh, we've got a bunch of people who listen to us in blank city. Right. Maybe we should make an attempt to play that city.
Yeah, I mean, obviously your big bands are doing it, right? Because they've got the capital to pay someone to do it. As far as the smaller ones, I don't know. I think it's probably pretty low because every conversation that I've had about this subject and about what I do with Spotify, the reaction has always been, oh, I had no idea that Spotify did that. And I had to hunt for it, to be honest. I kind of saw a screenshot on somebody's Instagram, 2 or 3, 4 years ago, and then had to hunt for the artist insights. And at that point, it was a beta, and somehow I snuck in. But I think starting mid this year, they made a huge push. So hopefully more people will take advantage of it. But I mean, it's a tool, and it's changed the industry. It's not going back, and so we got to squeeze every ounce of value out of it that we can.
Yeah, yeah, because that's, in my opinion, what if you're not being able to get paid a ton off of a spin, at least use it for what you can. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and again, like I think that there is some discussion that like spends can lead to record sales. I think we all certainly encourage that. Like, hey, if you discover an artist, tweet about us, tip us, come buy a T-shirt, something, right? Because that really, really helps. But yeah, you're right. Like the people that refuse to change, unfortunately, are going to have a very hard life, right?
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, I mean, like the people who refuse to change it always feels like, or like super anti Spotify, right? Super anti streaming. Why aren't people making records? I'm never putting my music to stream. It always feels like they're from the old guard who already made money, right?
Yeah.
Like, for example, I mean, like Prince's music just went on Spotify after he died,
right?
Which I thought was like kind of,
yeah,
you know,
a little sketchy,
but
yeah.
But you know, he was holding out. Like Garth Brooks holds out, right? He's not on YouTube, Apple Music, none of that. He doesn't even sell his records on iTunes.
Yeah,
and yet, you know, obviously that guy can sell out. When he played here in Lubbock, he played like 8 shows and sold out every show.
Yeah,
but of course, that's Garth Brooks and not
right.
Garth Brooks playing in Stillwater, trying to make it as a band.
Well, and that's you're absolutely right, and it's, I don't know, not to make this terribly political, but that sounds like a lot of arguments that are given to the younger generations. Like, well, here's what I did. Like, yeah, the market's completely different, though.
Yeah.
It's not even fair to compare the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what's funny, it's interesting, you know, a lot of the ones that I see doing it aren't even from the old guard, because Taylor Swift delays putting her stuff out.
Yeah.
But again, it's Taylor Swift, and she's got, you know, absurd amounts of capital behind the marketing on her. She freaking partnered with like UPS.
Yeah.
There were like UPS ads and stuff. So
Taylor Swift, I'm a fan of Taylor Swift. I'm not really a fan of like the last record, but I can only say that just because the songs I heard, I was like, this is not like I don't.
Yeah. Well, you know, it didn't end up being the train wreck that I think we all expected.
Yeah.
Because that first track came out, I was like, what in the hell? Because 1989 was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a great record.
Yeah.
And but this last one came out, and we were. I think I tweeted like, I'm really confused, and one of my friends was like, yeah, I think so is she.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, one of the things about her though is, or there was maybe it was like 18 months ago or so, there was an article from the Ringer, which was, I can't remember exactly the headline, but it was something to the effect of like, when did you realize Taylor Swift was playing you, or something like that. And what it was about was like, you know, her being disgenuine, I guess, in either her marketing or her like song, or you know what I mean. And I get like you were saying earlier, you need to be able to separate yourself from your art, right? And so how much of that is like that we believe that, especially with a songwriter, that whatever they're saying in the song is them in live.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And with that first single, I don't even know what the hell it's called, but like when she says, you know, it sounds like she's still hung up on a relationship that was like years ago, right? And like like I said, like this piece, it had like, you know, different people saying when they didn't necessarily check out on Taylor, but like what they've been giving her I don't know, just discrediting her for like the marketing aspect. And one of the things, you know, was her dating Tom Hiddleston.
Loki.
Yeah. And how staged that looked, and how awkward and weird it was. Stuff like that. And I'll show you the article after we do this.
Well, and I don't know. I guess I kind of understand that, because people want authenticity, I guess. But like, part of me is like, it's none of your damn business. Like, right? Like, it was staged. Well, why are you paying attention? I don't know. Yeah,
I think that there's something to her saying, you know, shake it off.
Right.
I'm over you, yada yada yada, and then going like changing the entire thing and being like, but I'm not really over you.
Yeah.
Like, you should be not over me either.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I don't get it either. Right. I don't claim to have the art of songwriting down, but again, like, I think I don't know. Like there's just a narrative there. It doesn't have to be her.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be her at all times. Right. Like you write songs in different places in your life, and they may not mean the same thing as when you wrote them, but they're still meaningful and they're still your songs.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I was not a really huge fan of the last record, but I think people go a little crazy, and they're a little overly critical on her.
I think 1989 was, like you said, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Just the production on it was just
it was so good.
Really, really good. The other side of the relationship thing, did you listen to the Harry Styles record?
No, I haven't yet.
Talk about production.
Yeah,
and just
I've heard it's really good.
It's just a really good pop record.
Yeah.
It sounds so good. There's a couple songs that I'm like, skip.
Yeah.
But he's a hell of a songwriter.
Yeah.
And one of my buddies was saying, he can't wait for like Noel Gallagher to produce a record of his or something like in 5 years.
Yeah.
Because like it'll happen, something like, because it's very Britpop.
Yep.
In a way. And that's something that, I don't know. I never really paid attention to Harry Styles before.
No,
but
me neither.
this record sounds good.
And that's, I'm just super stoked on where pop as a whole is going, because it's all very dark. Like, it's very moody.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, I don't know, very thematically heavy. And, from a production standpoint, like, super gated reverb snare and toms are back, and the giant hi-hats and real spacey. Like Noah Gunderson's, I just heard a track. I haven't listened to his newest record, but again, it's like super dark pop, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm anything that, as long as pop keeps going in that direction, I am super excited about it.
There's a Vox video about the. Now I'm gonna butcher this up as far as just
fine.
like doing it as far as just the lowest common denominator on describing this.
Right.
Because I'm not an engineer, but talking about how like the drums of like the early '80s are coming back, and that may be what you're talking about.
Yeah.
As far as like
reverb,
like what you would call, like the example was like "In the Air Tonight," right?
Yeah,
like
Phil
that,
Collins.
like where it's just like that top part of the drums,
Yep.
right? Yeah, how that's coming back.
Yeah, and it's and that everything is cyclical, right? Because I think that if you think of that snare like that. If I try to make the sound, it would clip, but it's like real dry and like really quick. Everybody's doing that. I'm doing it tonight, right? Like I detuned it so it would do that. If you hear that in the context of Born in the USA, it's kind of like eye-rolly, right?
Yeah.
Like, ugh, great, this song again. But when you hear it in the context of 2017 dark pop or whatever, it's really cool. And so it just kind of proves that all these styles are cyclical.
Well,
right?
I think like so much of that is it creates an era of sound.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when you hear those drums, most people think of it as being a '80s sound,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why like whenever people play it now, it feels nostalgic in a way.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I think too, the idea of recorded music is a very new concept, and so we've not fleshed out what these cycles look like, right? And so maybe this is but maybe this is the first time that a cycle has really come full circle, like in the mainstream, right? And we're just now understanding, like maybe in a few years, it'll be nostalgic for.
Yeah, well, it could be
2017 people.
It could be where it's the first time, or like one of the first times where it's been created in someone's early lifetime. You know what I mean? Like where take somebody who was like their teenage years in the 80s, 20s, and then it's already back by the time they're under 50.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm just makes me excited, right?
Yeah. But, well, I don't know. People are starting to roll in here.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and call it quits.
Cool.
If
Yeah,
you're
it's
good.
great. Thanks for
I
having
think
me
this
on.
is a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks.